Here we go. Let's get these questions from the DMs.
Yep.
All right, well, that's what I heard. So what do you want me to tell you?
I gotta sit up straight. I gotta get my
All right,
posture.
order in the court, boys.
All right.
Hello and welcome to That's What I Heard, the podcast. My name is Lil Frex. Sebastian is back in the studio. Welcome back, Sebastian.
Thank you so much. I needed a week off, and it was beautiful. I'm here, and I am strong.
Love that. Producer Mike has no shoes on, and he's looking cute as hell.
Thank you.
No problem. And we have a great guest today.
Unbelievable.
A very funny dude. A New York City historian and tour guide.
Oh, yeah.
A stand-up comedian. A recovering lawyer. Please welcome Tom Delgado.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It's great.
Thank you so much for coming. I told Mike to start finding me experts.
Great.
And you are our first expert.
Really? All right,
Yes.
great. I thought it was because we were friends. Silly of me.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah, what an idiot. No, that's cool. I'm excited to be here.
So your area of expertise, I would say, is New York City history.
Yeah, I guess I was always just a big history buff, but I guess I dove into it when I was a tour guide for a long time in New York. Well, I guess I still technically am because of the license and all that stuff. But yeah, just learned all the crud there is to learn about New York.
So you're a licensed tour guide. So what's the licensing process?
Yeah, it sounds a lot more impressive
Show
than
up
it
at the
actually is.
DMV, blow a line of cocaine, they go, you're licensed.
Not even that, actually. Not even that. No, you just go and you basically take a multiple choice test.
Okay.
And you have to take it with like the Department of Consumer Affairs, and it's pretty much just to make sure you're not, dead.
Like real dumb.
You're actually a conscious human being.
Yeah,
That's it.
okay.
Pretty
Like what
much.
kind of questions? Like if you had to get from Sunnyside, Queens to Midtown Manhattan, what train would you take?
No, not even that hard.
Not even that hard.
What ends up happening is there's questions online, so you just memorize the questions
Oh,
and
okay.
you take them.
Can you give us one?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be hard because you haven't looked at the questions.
No. It's going to be easy.
Okay. What year was the Empire State Building finished?
Finished?
Yeah.
1967.
1999.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. It was 1931.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you actually believe 1999?
I don't know what I
You're like,
believe.
well, I guess it was. I guess I remember being
in
there.
my head, I thought I remember going there before 1999. And I remember because my friend's mom got her purse stolen there.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Look at that. Look at that.
A day to remember. Now, do you think Empire State Building underrated, overrated, or appropriately rated?
I don't know. I'm a fan of the Empire State Building. I think it's a pretty building. The Art Deco architecture. Sebastian, how about that?
There you go.
I know he's a huge Art Deco fan.
Yeah.
So I thought
I love that. Give me some angles and a gargoyle. I'm fucking hard.
Now, did you know that the French sent us the Empire State Building?
Yeah. Did you know
As
the
a-
most basic New York fact?
As
He's
a-
a tour guide.
No, they sent us the Empire State Building as a gift for the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Okay, that was fake.
That was
sounded
completely
mad
joke.
real.
That was totally
Yeah, it sounded
fake.
mad
Yeah,
real,
sure.
didn't it?
Oh God, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You meant the
I thought you guys.
Okay,
yeah.
so right now the
Yeah.
ranking of the dumbest person in the room.
Sure.
I'd say me and you are tied for first right now.
Sure.
Sebastian's in last place, but
Yeah.
this is going to change as we go throughout the episode.
The purpose of
rankings.
that fact was to establish that hierarchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's established. We move on to real stuff, right?
Yes.
Got it.
What's your favorite New York neighborhood?
Oh man, I live in Queens now.
Where at?
I live in Woodside.
Oh yeah, I used to live in Sunnyside.
Really?
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, I love it out there, man. I don't know. I love it out in Queens, to be honest. I think Jackson Heights is a great neighborhood. I kind of like Flushing. I mean, it's far away, obviously, so it's not the most ideal thing, but I love those neighborhoods, man. I think that's, to me at least, in my opinion, that to me is New York. I love it out there.
There's nothing more New York than the 7 train. It's a working person's train.
Man. It's great.
Walk me through what it's like to what is the tour scenario?
When I used to do tours, when I used to do public ones,
When
you
I
mean?
used to do public tours, so it's like, would you just give a neighborhood? Like we'll meet on the Upper West Side. And
So for starters, you're a contractor. So you work for whatever companies. Different companies do different stuff.
Okay.
So one of the companies, for example, would have people just sign up. So there'd be a couple, a family or whatever, and it'd be 20 people, let's say, and they all meet you at a spot. You send them an email like the day before and you meet them there. You do 2 hours, you finish.
and you pick.
No, they
you write
have
your
certain
tour?
they have certain routes or whatever, and
Ah.
you learn them and do those. There are also other companies. Let's say I've done some for. There was one like a luxury tour company
Mhm.
where I remember I did tours for like one of the founders of Uber. I did a tour for
Wow.
like one of the richest men in Eastern Europe.
Really?
Like all these random things. They drive you around in limos. I did helicopters, all kinds of stuff. I also did.
Wait, so you were driving around in a limo giving the tour?
Yeah. I wasn't driving it.
No,
I was
you were in
it.
the back.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
going,
yeah.
and this is where.
Or we'd stop places.
That's incredible. Was the guy getting
Interesting.
head as you did that?
Yeah,
From me.
That sounds like the ultimate. It's like, I want to learn something, but I must pause at the same time.
But I can't be wearing pants.
So what was his vibe? Like he just wanted to know about the history?
Yeah, and I
certain
guess
areas?
people like that have to, they just shell out money and they do whatever they want,
What's that going to run him for a private tour?
Well,
in a
I didn't.
limo?
That was back when I was just doing them for companies. So the company charges whatever, and they just
Right.
pay me, which is kind of
That's
messed
fucked.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, whatever. What's funny is now people will hit me up every now and then because of the videos and stuff. Because I have a YouTube channel, and I'll do stuff every now and then, private stuff, and then it just goes to me. I'll just do private stuff.
What was the biggest tip you ever got?
I mean, people will tip you. I remember. I think I got a $200 tip from
That's
somebody.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it was pretty good.
Who was it? Was it like what type? Oh, what person? What personality?
What
What
type of
archetype?
person?
Oh, I don't remember. I think it was just like a family business guy I think he was from India or something. But
Okay.
he had kids. I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
He saw the sadness in my eyes and he's like, oh, this guy deserves some. This is someone's poor child. But yeah, that was probably the best one.
You ever start making shit up? Because like,
Yeah,
where do you learn about history? And sometimes you got to go, this is suspect information. I'm going to say it anyway, or just make shit
Well,
up.
it's called being diplomatic. When you don't know something, you just steer the conversation over to something you do know. You can find a way to connect it. It's like playing 6 degrees. If someone asks you a question like, what year was this built? And you say, well, that thing up there is indicative of whatever thing, which is like this building or something, you can just kind of steer it.
Totally. And
So,
they love that.
I
They
love
eat
it.
that up.
All I hear is he's a manipulator.
Yeah. And then I asked him to join my cult.
Intern Jeremy, can you please get Better Business Bureau on the line?
Yeah.
We have a liar on our hands.
You guys should have a siren in the studio for that.
we
Come on.
have a fraudster on our
Working on
hands.
it.
Fraud in progress.
Yeah.
Fraud in progress. I want to know a little bit if you know anything. Do you know anything about the subways?
Yeah, sure.
What the fuck?
What the fuck is up with
When
the
did they build
subways,
that
man?
shit? And how we're never gonna be able to get a new one. Right?
Well, one of the problems is everyone always blames MTA, but the MTA isn't run by the city.
I know.
It's
Isn't
the
that
state,
sick?
man.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, anyways, the subway started out, it was private. It was actually private first. They started out with 2 lines that were both private, and then they came in with a 3rd line that was public. And that was the point of it was to basically sink the other 2 lines so then they could take them over. And that was actually LaGuardia.
What were the original lines?
It was the IRT was the original line. It left from City Hall. It went up basically what is now like the 455 area.
Okay.
And then it crossed over what is today like 42nd Street. And
Made
then
a
it went
turn.
up. Yeah, when it turned.
Okay.
Yeah. Turns were
Respect,
invented in
respect.
early 1900.
Interesting.
Wait, turns were invented? Is that
Actual
real?
turning as humans.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
See, he's making shit up. Better Business Bureau 911.
You got to just be confident. Anytime you say something confidently, people will believe you.
I'm believing you. You came here.
The subway invented the wheel actually as well.
No, that was cave people. And then they called that number so that they could get a patent on it. Remember that commercial?
That was a Geico commercial?
There's a like a patent insurance commercial
Exactly.
with
Oh,
like a
right.
cartoon caveman
That's
who
right. Okay.
patents the wheel. I have
no idea what anyone's talking about.
We got it.
So Frex will cut that.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Quite frankly, it's not piquing my interest.
Moving on.
So here's the important question:
Uh-huh.
Do we have a good subway system or a bad?
Yes,
Subway
I think we have a
system?
good one.
But it's so old. That
It
it's like-
is, but it's also incredibly like developed. I mean, you can take like the A train goes like 31 miles or something.
yeah,
It's
like,
insane.
How did they even do that?
Yeah,
You
well,
have to
also
wonder.
too, like you can get anywhere in the city, like and it's also one of the reasons why New York is the way it is. Without the subway, this city wouldn't have expanded the way it did. I mean, the city is huge. Like the amount of land, the only way you can cover that land is with the subway, and make it still a cohesive unit. You know.
Right.
So it wasn't until like 1904 is when the first line opened, and when it opened, it's what kind of caused everything to grow. Like the Upper West Side, up in Harlem, all that stuff really kind of took off.
It used to be farms or no?
It was owned by land. Like actually, when the subway was going to open, people started scooping up a lot of the land and speculating and stuff. And like the Astors, the name Astor,
yeah,
of course. Astor owned a lot of land there on Broadway and the Upper West Side.
Didn't they go right to the bottom of the ocean on the Titanic?
One of them did, yeah,
Yeah,
he did.
Good riddance.
He
Wait,
did
but
good.
so they're big Upper West Side people?
Well, they owned land everywhere. Like in fact, they owned a lot of land in Times Square. Astor owned a lot of land. He owned a lot of stuff. Greenwich Village.
1904. It's like, how in 1904 did people even get down there to build a massive subway system?
Yeah, it's kind of
wild.
insane.
And without
Yeah,
the
yeah.
city falling into the ground.
Yeah.
Like how? Do you know?
Well, yeah, they dug these huge holes. They put everything in, and they basically covered them up. It's kind of, you can see all these old pictures of how they did it. It's kind of insane. Yeah.
Like, who even had the idea? So wild.
Well, they actually would like had the idea for a little while, and then they finally were like, screw it, and they got the political will and everything to finally do it. But in fact, there was this is kind of a little fact. There was actually a pneumatic tube over next to what is today's City Hall, where a guy made the predecessor to the subway that went like 2 blocks, and it was like a pneumatic tube, like at the post office or like the bank when they shoot those tubes through like the vacuum.
Yeah.
It was that. And it had these huge fans, and it pulled it from like 2 blocks.
And
that
they would
was
shoot people through it? Like
no,
Harry
they'd
Potter
shoot a
style?
car with people in the car.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and that was like the first thing, and it failed, and and then it just kind of sat.
Yeah, that was a no on Shark Tank.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Sharks, listen. I'm going to put a tube. It's going to suck people
Yeah.
from 1 block to 2 blocks down the block.
And it was fancy, and there was a piano player and everything, all this kind of stuff. And then it
Wait,
failed.
really?
Yeah, it was a really fancy thing. Yeah,
Well, that's dumb.
yeah. Piano sucks.
So we're never going to be able to.
That's not true. Can we cut that? Big
No.
piano fan.
We're keeping the
Big
piano
piano
stuff,
fan.
okay? I am. My last name's Steinway.
I
German immigrant.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I actually made a promise to myself for this episode to cut less. I'm getting too intense with the editing.
Okay.
I'm becoming a tyrant with the
Oh
editing.
boy, yeah, you can really go down
I
a
gotta
spiral
let
with
it
that
fly.
stuff. You just let it
I just
fly.
gotta, like,
We're just hanging out. That's what
yeah.
people are tuning in for.
I gotta let it fly. But if one more person brings up a fucking Geico commercial, okay, that episode will be 12 minutes long.
Oh,
That was me.
man.
Seb, you're up.
So, So Staten Island, can you tell me about like some fun facts? Because everyone always asks me, because I'm from Staten Island, they go, what's something fun? What do you like about Staten Island?
What do I like about it?
I never know what to say. I go,
Well-
the food's good. What do you think is like a good fun fact
I
that could
think
throw
I think-
down quick?
I think the cool thing about Staten Island is well, first of all, it's the highest concentration of Italian Americans in the United States.
We figured.
Not surprised.
Not surprised, but I think that's
Really?
it is. And I think what's interesting about that is that people go to like Little Italy in New York,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Man, this sucks. We're all Italians."
Right.
But then you forget that the Italians stopped coming here, decades ago. But the people who were the descendants and stuff moved to other parts of New York, and we have now we still have the largest Italian American.
That's amazing.
Yeah, And
I'm
so
Italian.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No,
You better fucking
really?
believe it.
Really?
Yeah, and I grew up next to my cousin.
Really?
There you go.
I'm fucking, yeah, that's
Do you
beautiful.
know anything about your predecessors? Like, did they live in Little Italy or anything? Like, what part of Italy? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do. They lived outside of Naples in a small town, and the patron saint was Saint Sebastian.
What town was it? What town?
I don't know the
Okay.
exact town. I have the papers at home.
Do you know where in New York they settled to start?
I believe it was in Brooklyn, and
Okay.
it was on not downtown. It was like Clawson Avenue, and then
Okay.
Bensonhurst over there.
Sure.
And then they moved out to Staten Island.
Because that the Napolese actually
Mhm.
were big on Mulberry Street.
Oh,
And
really?
Mulberry Street is what's left of Little Italy, pretty much. And
Yes,
that was like
totally.
a big stronghold for the people from Naples.
I wonder. I wish I knew. This is all stuff like I wish I knew, but then my dad starts talking, and I get bored.
Yeah, you just leave your body.
I
Yeah.
just it's just really boring.
Yeah. You don't like that? You're not interested in that stuff? Have you ever been over there?
To Italy?
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, of course.
I got laughed at because I went to a pizzeria and I went up 5 times in a row to order potato croquettes because they were so good. The guy goes, enough. I went 5 times in a row. And I was with a woman and she was laughing. She's like, he's unbelievably fat. No, I'm kidding. She said it in Italian.
I only just like 2 weeks ago became interested in where I come from.
Uh-huh. What's your background?
Well, on one side, it's Irish.
Mhm.
And same thing with like Sebastian said, it's like they start talking about County Mayo and I leave my body. I
Yeah.
don't know what that is and I don't know what the deal is, but that's where we're from, I guess.
County Mayo, huh?
And then on the other side, French.
Okay. Do you know where?
And then so my grandma's from French and then my grandpa was like a wasp of some variety.
Okay. Do you know where they came through? Did they come through New York?
Probably the bar. I don't know. I do know that on my mom's side, the Irish side is O'Malley's and then Rogers. And on the Rogers side, they were like big knife makers in
Got to get yourself a Rogers knife.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they were like
Must
wealthy knife makers, but then they drank away all the money and just like devolved into madness.
Wow, that's not a good business to be in when your money runs out. Everyone
know.
just has knives.
Just a lot of knives and no
Yeah.
money.
Just like-
A lot of bills on the table and
Yeah,
a lot of knives.
Well, I wish I could think of something to do to get me out of this.
I think my grandma came through Ellis Island.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I loved how you phrased that question. You didn't say, because everyone is like, don't say where you from.
Yeah.
You said, how did you say it
Where
again?
they came through. No.
When
What's your
you're asking
background?
what's your background?
Yeah.
I think that's like a really great way.
No, well, I think that's also in the United States. Like people forget, I take it for granted here. This is such a young country.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Everyone, if the very least, like grandparents. I mean, look at like the Ellis Island was really only active from 1892, and they closed it down completely in 1954. Completely closed down, and they really kind of stopped bringing people in, but in the 1920s. So in that tiny window, there was like 15 million people coming through there.
wow.
And I know that doesn't sound like a lot now.
Yes,
There's
it
like
does.
380 million in the country, or whatever. But if you multiply that times 2 a few times, which is what a generation, whatever amount of kids they have and everything, that's a lot of people. They say 40% of all Americans can trace one ancestor at least through Ellis Island.
Now,
Wow.
what's
40%.
the deal?
That's
Like, what
crazy.
was the deal in that era? Like, we were asking people to come over here to like, what was?
Well, there was all kinds of stuff going. Well, first of all, New York City specifically.
Can you give me the years again?
So Ellis Island itself was open from 1892 to 1954. But although in
Okay.
1924 they passed really restrictive laws, so they didn't really use it a whole lot.
Okay.
And even before that, in the mid 1800s, when a lot of the Irish came in, and you know that like the potato famine was
Yeah.
obviously a huge thing there, and a lot
But
of
it's
poverty.
so cartoonish. You go, was that even real, or are people
Oh,
just
it was-
repeating that?
No, it was
It's
real.
real?
It was real.
Okay.
And also they were coming before that too, but it was a lot of poverty there, like a lot of poor, and people were coming to get away from that situation. And then the other
Irish people are so fucked. Like their history is so sad.
Yeah, and people
It
don't
is.
realize it too. Like the Irish too, back when like the late 1800s, when they were all involved in politics and everything, they had a real bad rap, man. Like they were the
Yeah,
ones who
they were hated.
people drew them, like the cartoonists. Like you would pick up the paper and the cartoonists would draw them as actual monkeys, as apes. Like
And
that's
what
how they
was
drew
the
them.
beef? Because we were drunks and we were sad.
And well, I think also poverty and
Yeah,
poverty.
we were
Like
poor.
that's another thing. Like the Germans came in actually in bigger numbers than the Irish around the same time. Although the Irish stuck around in New York a little more because they were poor.
Right.
The Germans were able to go out to other parts of the country and also came a little more equipped. They were more educated, et cetera, because of the circumstances
Right.
they came under.
And we came right out of Angela's ashes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Old dirty.
For Christ.
And,
walking
the
home from-
Germans came educated because they came for political reasons. So,
Oh.
so Germans like Steinway and all these.
Yeah.
You had let's see, like Levi Strauss. That's a German descent, like Levi's
The jeans.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
no
he
way.
was a tailor who came over. You have who else? Pfizer. Charles Pfizer started Pfizer in
Stop.
Williamsburg.
I got a
Wow.
little Pfizer in me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. I could tell from here. Look at those pants. I thought you were talking about that
We're
Viagra.
about to get
Oh no! I only do blue chews. I put them in my breakfast. See how long I can stay outside before I gotta run home.
You just put a bunch of blue chews in a bowl and milk. That's it, right?
We're about
Yeah,
to
I
get
wish.
a COVID banner on this episode if we talk about Mr. Pfizer one more time.
of
Okay.
course, I'm
If
so
you
sorry.
speak ill about
Yeah,
Mr.
we
Pfizer.
talk only about
Sorry.
Mr. Johnson here. Mr.
has
Johnson.
has
Johnson.
any Irish person ever done something good for the city?
Oh man.
No, but like I know everyone became cops. Then they
Yeah, a lot of
went into
police
civil
officers.
service. I have seen Colin Quinn's New York story.
Mm.
Right? They all went into civil service, right?
Yeah, there were a lot of police officers. There were a lot of Irish passed through here. There were definitely a lot of
But is there like a famous Irish New Yorker? I can't think of any.
a famous Irish New Yorker.
Yeah, like a Steinway or a
Well, no, not like
LaGuardia.
not like a Steinway. The Irish were also like they were also big in city
What?
government and stuff. There were
Tammany
Irish.
Hall.
Tammany Hall too. Yeah, you know,
That's-
actually, Tammany Hall started out.
This is the thing where he talked about deflecting a question into something
Me?
more that
Yeah.
he knows. Rex is desperately. Did the Irish do anything good?
Did we do anything good? There were so many of us, and you're like,
Look at the time. You know, is this
I do
podcast
have to get
over?
going.
Let me,
You're
see,
about
let
to
me check
start-
my flip phone.
Yeah, you're about to start talking about a building. Well, did the Irish? Well, Tammany Hall was
Yeah.
a construction.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was going to say Tammany Hall because Tammany Hall was
can you
started.
say what it is?
Okay, so Tammany
you.
Hall was basically. This is what I was going to bring up because what it is
Yeah.
was basically a group, an organization to help immigrants arrive.
Uh-huh.
So if you were coming over here from Ireland, you're like, oh, how the hell do I get around? Where do I find a job? You go to a place like Tammany Hall and they kind of plug you in, they help you out, whatever. And then they famously, quote, gave turkeys away during Thanksgiving and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And you go there and all they do is say, all right, cool, man, here's your stuff. Now all we need in return from you is you vote the way we want.
Oh, okay.
So then Tammany Hall had in their pocket like 200,000 votes. So with those votes, they could go to a politician and say, hey, we'll get you elected. But when you get elected, do what we want. So that politician would get elected and then they say, okay, buy my, concrete, buy my rugs and pay me 10 times what it's worth. And so they would basically siphon money out of the city that way.
and that was the Irish. So we have done something.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you
And
hear
that
what you
was
just said?
that was like the 5 points kind of situation.
That was during the 5 points. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was around that time. Like this is all the second half, like maybe the last quarter of the 1800s. That was around the second half of the 1800s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how could people were coming through Ellis Island just voting ready? Like they could just vote?
No, so that was another thing. Ellis Island was a little later too, by the way. So by the time
Okay.
Ellis Island came around, the Irish weren't coming
Tammany
in as
Hall was
much.
before.
Yeah, Tammany Hall
I
was
see.
established before, but by the time so Ellis Island was Italian. Ellis Island was also Eastern European Jews and Russian Jews, that group, but it wasn't as much Irish at that point. There was Irish. In fact, the first ever here's an important name.
Here we go.
You want the first ever immigrant
Ted
through
Bundy.
Ellis Island? Yeah, Ted Bundy. It was Ted Bundy.
Okay.
No, it was actually Annie Moore, who was an Irish from County Cork. Yeah, she was 15 years old, I believe.
What did this bitch do? I've never heard of her.
Yeah, who's
Yeah.
Annie Moore?
What'd she do?
She was the first ever immigrant through Ellis Island. It was a big
Oh,
deal.
okay.
You know, so
Oh,
she was.
cool.
Today, cool. Sounds
Right.
Well, I got to
lame.
give you something. I got to give you
Sounds all-
something.
Yeah, you really dug to the bottom of the barrel for that.
Today
Listen.
we are all Annie Moore. I might change my stage name to Annie Moore.
Nice.
There you go.
I woke up at 6 a.m. to watch Ireland play in the World Cup this morning.
You set an alarm.
Boring. Yeah,
You're not
I
a
went
big
to-
soccer fan?
I'm a big gambling fan.
Oh, you gamble on those games?
Yeah, but I have never watched the Women's World Cup. I just watched the Men's World Cup. Got really into it. I was like, I can't wait for the women's. But they're playing the games in such a disrespectful time. 3 a.m., 6 a.m.
Yeah. Well, isn't it taking place like in Australia? Or
yeah,
New
but
Zealand?
I mean, the
but
men,
it's disrespectful.
but
It's
the
still
men-
relationship. Yeah.
The men's was in fucking Dubai, and they made it work with the times. Or where was it? Not that Dubai. It was somewhere
Qatar.
like that.
Qatar.
So,
Cotter.
Qatar, and they made it work with nice times. So I don't know what's going on over there. Anyway, the Irish girls are great though.
Mm.
O'Sullivan.
Sure.
I mean, they're
O'Malley's.
just wild girls.
Sure.
They
Sure.
did lose, and I did lose my bet, but that's okay.
How much did you
I bet
lose?
$5.
$5. You're
I-
a huge
$5.
gambler.
But no, because I haven't watched the. I
You
haven't
really
watched,
are. It just runs through your veins.
I haven't
gambling.
watched it yet, so I'm not like ready to make big bets.
Okay.
Because this was the first time I was watching
Right.
it, but I will not be betting on Ireland again.
So you woke up at 6 a.m. to lose money.
Yeah.
You woke up at 6 a.m. to lose $5.
Yes.
Yep. And I woke up.
That-
I got
that's-
my comforter, my pillow, all cozy. Put the Christmas lights on. Went to the couch. Got a cold brew. Plopped myself down, ready to watch my ancestors fucking crush Australia.
Yeah.
Only to find that we are in fact the biggest losers of
Of
the day. and
You didn't want to go too far with that.
and-
Okay.
and of
Just the
history
day.
as
There's
well,
still
and of the
redemption
history
possible.
as well. You
There's
know
still-
what? We do have to go throw it over to Triboro Trina for traffic and weather. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi Frex, Triboro Trina here with your daily updates weekly. So, as you can see, from the skyline you kind of can't see, the air quality is yet again a fucking disaster. How bad is it? I came to New Jersey. Okay? That's how bad New York City is at this point in time. I came to New Jersey to get fresh air. All right, and that's enough fresh air for one day. We're back in the Bronx. The George Washington just moved at a pace I have never in my life. I have never. It is unheard of. It is unprecedented, and it'll never happen again. Smooth sailing inbound on the G-dubs. I guess maybe you can go some places and see some people and do some things. Back to you, Frex.
Sweetheart Gang, assemble. Sweet, 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 sweet. Welcome back, everyone. We got Tom in the studio. We're talking New York City history, baby.
Nice.
So you think the mafia shit is fake or what's up?
The mafia is a myth.
But it's
a complete-
overblown in a way, right?
well,
the
it is-
lore of it.
Well, no. Back in the day,
Okay, no.
it was pretty big. Today is not as big as it used to be.
Yeah. But like,
Now the mafia is big corporations, bro.
yeah, there's a Starbucks on
That's
every
the real
corner
mafia.
run by the mafia. Wait, do you believe that the recycling in New York City is picked up by like mafia companies and just thrown in the garbage?
Well, back in the day, it was actually they ran all the carting
Right.
stuff. I don't know if today they are, but why did you read something?
I read something like that.
You read that they
That's
just
what
throw
I
away
heard.
all the recycling?
I heard that there's Gambino crime families
Mm.
picking up the recycling and just putting it in with the regular trash,
Hmm.
taking it down the East River, making it go by.
Interesting. That's quite a conspiracy theory.
Well, that's what we're good for.
Well, I don't know about that specific one, but they did used to run the carting stuff, and they used to run all construction. I mean, like during the 1980s and stuff, like they did everything. You had to basically overpay everything to build in New York because of all the mafia.
So the lore of mafia culture is not overblown. It
no,
was like,
and that they really had a stranglehold on the
real
city.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
they definitely did. They definitely did. And it's kind of interesting, like all the, also this goes back to the immigration stuff. Like the Sicilians who basically kind of quote, invented the idea of the mafia in a way, or at least what we know it as. And it's funny because like history factors into that. Like Sicily was always this little island, obviously, and it was always getting invaded, and all these the leaders were always turning over. So the people there would trust more in the people, the warlords basically of their neighborhood. That's who they went to with their problems. That's who they went to when they needed stuff, because they were the ones who didn't turn over constantly. They were the ones who they could trust would be there. So that kind of culture was developed there early on, and it kind of bled into this like illicit activity and all that stuff. And then that came over here. And there was actually an early incarnation of the mafia before Luciano, all that was called the Black Hand.
Oh yeah,
You've heard of this?
Yes.
They'd put
They blew stuff up.
They blew stuff up.
Multiple
They'd
things.
blow people up and blow
Yeah.
their businesses up, and
Yeah.
they'd put like a black hand and a piece of
Yes.
paper with a black hand, kind of as warnings and stuff. You got to pay us, all that kind of thing.
Wasn't the Black Hand also popping in Sarajevo? Wasn't that who killed Archduke Ferdinand?
Yeah,
and started
yeah,
World
yeah,
War
yeah,
One.
World
I mean,
War
I'm
I.
sure
I
a
think it
different.
was the
I'm
Black
sure a
Hand,
different
yeah.
branch, but it was definitely the Black Hand.
Exactly. I don't think
Yeah.
there was any trademark issues back then. I don't think they
Yeah,
had
imagine
trademark
they were like,
attorneys.
"Hey, you're kind of doing
Yeah.
our thing. We're over here starting world wars.
Although they probably
This
were
is kind of our
disappointed.
thing. You're down there talking about marinara sauce.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you're like you're disgracing the brand.
Yeah. And they were like, damn, we're unoriginal. We came up with the same idea. We're kind of lame.
Do you have any wild mafia stories that, or like just a little something?
Me personally?
No, not like you. You don't have to tell us any murders you did, but you could if you wanted to. But do you know any like fun little trivia?
Yeah, there's a ton of like mafia murders and all kinds of stuff. Like, I think like there was one where Joe Colombo was shot, and we were talking Columbus Circle. He was
I
shot.
was just watching
he
your
shot-
video of that. Yeah,
Were you really?
yeah, on YouTube.
Of the Joe Colombo murder?
You mentioned it. You said this is where Joe Colombo was shot. He was giving a speech.
Oh yeah,
right in front of the
Oh, you
Globe,
just watched
right?
that?
Yeah.
Ah. You watched my video, Frex?
Yeah,
I'm
you were
blushing
coming
over
in.
here.
Of course, I watch a lot of your
Right.
stuff. I found out about you.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, that was where he was shot in broad daylight, kind of nuts. And he was one of the guys. I guess he was getting. So you already know this one. There's so many crazy murders.
No, but
that-
tell us.
Well, he got shot in broad daylight. And they say it was Joey Gallo who had a role in that. He eventually was killed, and he was killed leaving Umberto's Clam House.
Of course.
Or not leaving, he was eating there, and they shot him and killed, and his family was there and everything, but they killed him, and it was his 43rd birthday. He just left listening to Don Rickles.
Oh.
He'd gone to Don Rickles'
This
performance.
is Joey Gallo.
That's Joey Gallo.
And
The
what
day
was
the
his
music
vibe?
died.
Joey
What was
Gallo
his
was
vibe?
actually, he was a famous mobster, like in that Bob Dylan wrote a song about him. Like he was friends with like celebrities. He went to the Copacabana to listen to Don Rickles, and then he got killed that night.
Wow.
Isn't it so funny
Gotti,
how?
wasn't it?
What's
Not
up?
Gotti? Wasn't that Gotti?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it wasn't Gotti.
No.
No. Gotti came along a little later. Gotti killed another guy outside of Sparks. Well, outside of Sparks Steakhouse in Midtown. That was another.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and that was another murder that happened in the. I mean, there's so many murders that were. It was just people were getting killed all the time.
Always at
Yeah.
food locations.
Shock. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
'Cause you're in a little bit of a food coma.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, what's up with Umberto's Clam House? It's still there? What's the deal?
Umberto's
Should we go
moved.
there?
It moved from where it was. Back then, it was on the corner. Now I think there's I think it's called I forget what it's called. Degenerates, I think is what it's called now. But it moved a little bit up the street.
Did
It's
anyone
still there.
ever get shot and killed in front of the Forever Christmas store that's in Little Italy? the 24, the year-round Christmas store where you can
only-
get ornaments with your name on it?
Very weird, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. The only crime there is their prices.
Oh!
Come on. Pew, pew,
What we
pew.
doing? What we doing? Love Christmas.
What are we talking
I'm
here?
kidding. I would never disrespect Christmas like that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's. I think what's cool too is about the mob. Like Lucky Luciano came in through Ellis Island,
Nice.
and he actually basically established the mafia, is what we know, which I think is kind of interesting. So basically, he comes over, he allies himself with one guy in this war called the Castellamarese War, and it's between these two guys basically trying to control the entire thing. His guy, he tries to push his guy to kill the other guy or whatever, do this. He actually turns on his guy and betrays him, kills him. Then the guy he basically allies himself with is the top dog. He's the head of the entire mafia. Then he's kind of being a whatever, and then he gets killed. Luciano gets him killed.
Wow.
So then Luciano is like, well, I'm kind of the boss, but I don't want to be the boss because then I'm going to get killed. So he divides it up among the 5 families.
Oh, so that's how it all.
It was his idea to do that. And he did it as a way to kind of keep the peace. And so one of the reasons why the mafia lasted as long as it did was because he saw that coming. And he's like, I'm just going to keep the peace. We divide up the 5 families. and we'll be able to do it this way better. And he didn't get killed that way either.
Interesting.
That's
And
so
it's interesting because he went to jail eventually. And this is crazy. During World War II, this was almost like out of a movie, like The Rock or something. They pulled him out of jail to help the U.S. Know the ports and stuff. And
Shit.
yeah, and then he was able
And
to.
they put him right back in? or
No, they
let him
didn't. He
fly?
went back to Italy.
Wow.
They let him stay free. Isn't
That's
that
a good
crazy?
deal.
That's amazing.
That's
That's
a good
crazy.
deal.
Like it was like out of a movie. It was like The Rock.
Wait, because they wanted to know which ports in Italy. So they could roll up on Mussolini.
And also the shipping, and he knew about like shipping lines and all kinds of stuff. So they wanted his knowledge about all that stuff. So
Wow.
they basically pulled him out of prison, and then he stayed out, and he was able to go back to and die in Italy.
And now he did all that work to create the mafia in New York City, so all these young mafia guys could have podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
So all of them could live the fucking dream of having a podcast. Thank you, Luciano. We honor you with the podcast we create today by ratting on everyone.
Yeah.
If you had to say, okay, let's think about this. Who are the 5 families of New York today? They don't have to be Italians, but like who are the 5 families that run New York
The
today?
Frankels,
The Frankels.
Who's
the
that?
Bethany Frankel,
Oh, the Bethany Frankels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Skinny Girl.
Yeah. The Andy Cohns.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, right.
The Franco family, the Cohen family,
The Saudis.
the Saudi, all of them, the Saudi royal family. That's 3. There's got to be like a Russian oligarch in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
any
Russian
other
mob
names.
still exists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All those oligarchs.
I think they own
Yeah.
a lot of the real estate, like a lot of those high rises.
Who actually
Yeah, they
is
do.
running shit in New York?
And then
New York has the highest concentration of billionaires in the world. It has the most amount of billionaires in the world
What about the
as their
others?
primary residence.
but they're not really here.
No, but their primary
It's a ghost
in the
kitchen.
in the world, we have the highest number of billionaires in New York City.
In Staten
Really?
Island, we have the highest number of people that live in Florida for a
Yeah.
year, half a year and a day.
In the town, in the town that I'm from, we have the
Tax
most.
jokes.
We have the most unreported income in New York State.
Really?
Yeah. Now I go, if it's unreported, how do you know about it?
That's what I'm
true.
saying, bitch.
These numbers are all fugazi,
Yeah.
and
That's
you know
right.
it. Now, so the billionaires are here.
Yeah. That's you're asking who runs the
You
real
think
estate runs New York, man. Who are we kidding? Real
Who-
estate.
Yeah.
the
Who's
real
a
estate-
billionaire? Who should we be hating?
Yeah. Who should we be
Who's the
hating on?
billionaire we should dislike?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk.
He's
heard of
not
him.
here though, right?
He's in the studio. I think he is.
Is he
I
here?
think I passed him on the way in.
Is he at Brooklyn Green Desk?
I'm sure he owns a building or something here.
No, but
Zuckerberg owns a building in
The whole building.
in Greenwich Village.
You know, Zuckerberg's dad was my dentist growing up. And
Really?
and the dentist office was in their house
huh?
in Edgemont.
That
New
sounds
York.
really, really
Yeah.
questionable.
Yeah, Dr. Zuckerberg. My cap is from him, and it's chipped. So
Oh,
You
man.
stopped going because he would
I
poke
went
you
there
a little too much?
no, he was good. He was
So
good.
sorry.
I went there till I was like 24 years old.
Oh, really?
Wow.
24.
Yeah.
And it was, oh wow, look at that.
But he would be like, my son just dropped out of Harvard. He started face.com. Oh, no, this is my grandpa retelling what Dr. Zuckerberg said. He'd go, my son just dropped out of Harvard, started face.com.
face.com.
Yeah.
If only it stayed face.com.
I know.
No.
we
Wait,
wouldn't
why
be
did I
talking
bring
about
that
it today.
up? Oh, yeah, the
I know.
Billies.
Yeah, who's the Billies?
So, yeah, who runs New York? I don't know.
Well, the biggest in like city politics, the biggest special interest is like basically is real estate board in New York, REBNY. They basically are the ones who kind of
They need those rezones.
yeah, you know your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need rezonings and they need all the tax breaks and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, they push for all this, and they need small businesses to die and whatever. So all that stuff. So they're basically changing the city. They're the ones who are changing the city. What you see on a day-to-day basis is kind of a lot.
They just want to get rid of all small businesses.
No, they just kind of want to open it up to make as much money as possible, and small businesses just
Right.
are kind of in the way sometimes.
Because they're not just working 24/7.
Or they're not just McDonald's, or they're not just Nike, or they're not just people who can rent out an entire building or pay astronomical rents.
But here's the problem.
And they're
now-
in the cash business still.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that
of
don't help the
course.
city.
McChicken is $3.50. I just saw.
Look at that. What's this world coming to?
It was $1 when we were child.
Unbelievable. That's the McChicken index is rising.
Look at me. This is how I participate. You're talking about real estate, owning businesses. I go, the McChicken is
I
a
just was about to say a really like cool question, and then
Okay.
you come in with the McChicken.
That's great.
I love it.
This
That
is
is great.
great. This is what I can offer.
This is it.
Well, I was gonna because what you were saying about like those interests move the city. So I was watching another video of yours where the guy was saying you were interviewing a guy about like the progressive nature of cities, and to be a living city, things will always be changing.
Sure.
People will always be moving around.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of a living city. So like how is that different from the whole issue we have with pricing people out, because it's all being controlled by corporate interests, is what you're saying.
Well,
it's not just natural movement.
No, it's not. It's not natural movement because it's curated. You know, you have
Right.
you have a small group of people kind of deciding what happens, and their interests don't align with what I think makes a city interesting, which is a lot of it. Which is a lot of it has to do with the quote democratic nature of it. You know, people come together. It's chaotic, you know, and the cream slowly rises to the top. You know, because of the interaction, because of all the like diversity, you know, socioeconomic and ethnic diversity. You know, but if you price out the immigrants, if you price out people who are poorer, that's a lot of stuff you're going to lose. You know.
And so, like, when we talk about pricing out, what does that like mean actually? Like, people get together and are
No,
we're
the
going to
neighborhoods
change
get too
this.
expensive.
No, I know, but like as far as the gears that turn
How
that
it becomes
process.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
like who gets together? Who says what? Who's like, we're going to raise these prices.
So
we're
it
going to
does-
get this type of person in and this type of person out.
Right. Well, one of the ways it's kind of indirect in that you don't necessarily say it that way. What you do is you say, we don't want to build affordable housing. There's one way.
Okay.
We don't want to have, help for small businesses. We don't want these kind of things. And that in turn jacks prices up. You know, if you want more luxury housing than a neighborhood can sustain, if you want less, you know, all these other things, if you're not catering to that group, they're going to disappear.
Right.
If you're not including them in the decision making.
Or like, what about roommate culture? Because I feel like a lot of what's happened in the past 10 years is like they took like
all right,
3-bedroom.
what'd your roommate do to you?
Fuck them. No, I was kidding.
This is the part of the podcast we're just steering. So what about when
No,
your
this
roommate
is
leaves the
about-
refrigerator
This
open?
is about real estate.
Okay.
So like a lot of what happened was they took like 3-bedroom apartments that families used to live
Yeah.
in, and they built this roommate culture, and they put like young kids in them.
Well, I don't know if
instead.
the roommate culture is the problem as
What
much
do you
as-
mean?
as
Yeah, it
the-
is.
Well,
Roommate culture is an issue,
no, don't get me wrong. It's not great to live with roommates, but at the same
but that's
time,
their business motto is roommate culture. Don't you
yeah,
think?
well, that's how people can still afford to live in these places. You have people in like
Right.
the Lower East Side now. These little apartments are so expensive. You have like 4 people living in basically closets who
Right.
just graduated from college and they're just partying for 2 years and then go back home.
No,
I
no, I'm
I
sorry.
honestly believe
I have a roomie.
that it was like an intentional thing where they go, we have to make roommates popular.
But roommates have
So that
always
we can
people have always
flip
lived with
these.
kind of roommates. I mean, even like back in
Well, tenements, I guess, are the
the
ultimate
tenements,
roommate
like
culture.
you have the whole families rooming together.
I guess like the young out of town roommate culture.
Well, that's why they make all these stupid ass shows like New Girl.
Is that about roommate culture?
No, never saw it. But I mean, there's something, you know. I'm gonna throw my hat in this combo.
Like how did all of the 25-year-old office girls end up in Yorkville? That had to have been a conscious decision in
Wait,
a
where are
boardroom
they?
somewhere. They're in Yorkville. Sebastian, get there now.
I gotta go there.
They just built the 2nd Avenue subway so you could get there.
Oh,
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
Like that had to have been a conscious decision.
No, I mean,
I would just love to be a fly on the wall for them to be like, next up, Yorkville. We make Yorkville pop.
well, I think one of the reasons why it's popping now is like you said, the subway, and what ends up happening is these neighborhoods then get like the condos and the
Right.
the Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. That's why those people go there, is because those things start popping up, and they're like, oh,
Right.
I mean, look at Williamsburg. I mean, Williamsburg, like 10 years ago was very different until it got its Whole Foods and Apple store and these massive high rises and stuff. It changed too.
It's Dubai now.
Yeah, it's Dubai.
I used to live at the 92nd Street Y.
Oh,
Isn't that
okay.
sick?
Wow, nice. That's some
Pretty-
cred.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's pretty fucking
that's fucking
rad,
sick.
bro.
All right.
But I was always in that Yorkville area,
Yeah.
so I saw the proliferation of the young 25-year-old office girl.
Sure. Very German back in the
Taking
day.
over.
German area. There's still
Was
a couple
it?
German places down there.
Now, who used to decide like what nationality would settle where?
I think it was just kind of like a snowball. Like people would just move into certain areas and then it would snowball. Like as more people came in, they would go to where they knew people, and then it'd snowball. And in like Little Italy, for example, there were so many Italians at one point that different cities in Italy were represented on different streets.
Wow.
You know, like I was saying, Naples was Mulberry. Like Sicily, for example, was Elizabeth Street. That's where Martin Scorsese grew up.
Oh,
So you had all these different areas representing different parts of countries even.
that's interesting.
Where did
Yeah.
Fran Lebowitz grow up? Is she even from the city? She speaks for the city.
Yeah.
But is she from there? I don't even know.
I don't
you
know
look
where
that up? Where's Fran Lebowitz
Hey,
from?
wake up, Mike.
Wake up, Schmikey.
This is what happens when you take your shoes off to do a pod.
Yeah, and lay down.
And,
All right, well,
he's horizontal over here, picking at his toes.
Any other wild stories or anything fun you want to think of?
Wild
or we could
stories.
just unplug the mic and trash the studio.
No, don't do that.
Or we
Okay.
can
Fran
keep, or we can
Lebowitz
keep
is
plugged
from
in and trash.
Morristown, New Jersey.
Oh, are you
Jersey
kidding me?
girl.
Yeah.
Fran
Wow.
Lebowitz, a Jersey girl. She spent her whole life running from herself, didn't she? She came to New York.
But
she
you know
said-
what? This is the place where people run from themselves.
Yeah,
That's
it
where
is.
you go. Where else can you go in the world than New York? You run from yourself in New York. That's what you
It
do.
really
I
is.
sometimes feel fucked because I'm from New York and like, where am I gonna go?
Me too.
Yeah.
It's not a horrible feeling, but it's an interesting feeling when it's like, I didn't come here to do anything. And you're
I
around
know.
all these people who are so motivated because like they came here to like do something. And it's like, bro, I've just been walking around here for a while.
But you're the glue. You need that. You need that kind of like history. You're the history. You're the
Wait a minute. For the history?
You're the history.
Okay.
Yeah,
what?
no fucking way.
You're the-
Are you kidding
What?
me?
Sebastian. You are the history.
I mean, I was part of history. You know what I'm
You were.
saying? I did participate in the opioid epidemic of Staten Island.
You did your part.
What can I say? I knew that was going to be history. I go, I'm going to be part of
Yeah.
it. Every time I broke a perk up, I said, that's my legacy.
He said, I love being part of epidemics.
No, I'm
I am
kidding.
an epidemic. One more question. Why is Staten Island a borough and Westchester is not? I feel like Staten Island is a suburb, right?
Well, I don't,
I mean, it's
don't
very
look at me.
different.
I don't like this question.
It's very different from the rest of the city.
How did Staten Island become a borough and not a suburb?
I mean, a lot of that stuff, it was obviously very political at the time. There were places that got pulled in and left. For example, like Hempstead, North Hempstead, those were the parts of Long Island. They were pulled in with Queens and they left.
Really?
Yeah, so there was all political. People didn't like what was going on, and a lot of it was done by county. The only real city out of all of them was Brooklyn that got pulled in. So, and you have Richmond County, which is Staten Island,
Yeah.
and then you have Queens County, which was a county, and it had cities. Long Island City, Flushing was a town. All these were parts of a county, but Brooklyn was the only city. So it probably just got pulled in because it was a county, and there wasn't a ton of people there, and they're like, all right, well, why not? Brooklyn was the last holdout. Everyone else wanted to join up.
What did they want to do?
Brooklyn was kind of just like they had their own pride. They were their own city. They had their own newspaper.
They had the
and
Nets.
That's right. They had Jay-Z. They had everything.
They had
were
the
like,
Islanders.
It
They
was
had the
1898. In
They don't need
1898.
this shit. They don't need to be involved in
Yeah.
this drama
Yeah.
over here on the islands.
It was just called the BE. Fuck the Q.
That's right. It was actually called BE Fuck the Q.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go.
Will there ever be a subway that can get you from Brooklyn to Queens in a normal way? Is that in the works?
Well, they were talking about the BQX. That's the
Okay.
you know what that is? That's
No.
it's basically like a overland rail, like almost like
Okay.
what you would see in like a
You're gonna sell it?
Indianapolis or some
Okay.
shit. But it's like I don't know if I actually have one there, but
What's
but,
that, a city or state?
both.
Yeah. Thank
the
you for
only
asking,
city
'cause
state
I
in the
didn't know
country.
either.
It's an actual city state.
Really?
No, but they actually
stop.
so it's an overland. It would have been while they're talking about it, it would be like an overland rail, like a little monorail looking thing.
Huh.
And the whole idea basically to be to cater to the people who have waterfront property.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Everything
like
starts good and ends bad.
I know. Well,
Fuck.
but now that there's all these people with money living on the waterfront in Williamsburg, waterfront in Greenpoint, all these people are like, well, I want to get around more easily. I don't want to have to walk all the way to whatever. So that was the
Jesus.
yeah. So that's
I don't
your
like that.
yeah. I don't either.
You know what's so funny? I hate on the rich. If I ever became rich,
I'm gonna be like, build me a train now.
yes.
Now. Stat, now. Need a train,
I'm
need a
not gonna help
train.
no one. You
Yeah.
see Shaquille O'Neal goes to the store, he buys people shit. Go get the fuck
I'll be
away from me.
stepping over people on the way to my train.
Yeah.
Your individual train.
What makes New York great?
Oh man.
There she is.
There
Pointed.
she is.
I'll leave you with a quote. How about that?
Yes,
That's
do
amazing.
it.
There's a really great book actually you should read called Here is New York. It's by E.B. White.
I've read that.
You read it?
Yes.
It's like a short
Yes.
book. It's like his love letter
I
to
was
New
thinking
York.
of Walt Whitman. Never mind. I didn't read
Yeah.
that shit. I was thinking of Walt Whitman talking about the ferry. Okay,
Right.
good.
You're like, oh, I was thinking of Harry Potter. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, in the book he says natives give New York its solidity, its continuity. Commuters give it its tidal restlessness, but settlers give it passion. And I think that's what's so interesting here. You go to places in other parts of the world where it's crowded. You go to places where there's pretty beaches or beautiful views or whatever that they may have or think they may have. Here is the one place where you have that kind of like energy and like hunger for something, hunger to like live. And once you lose that, you leave. Because it's brutal here. It's not, I think that's why I always tell people the dirtiness, the messy subway, whatever, all of that, the bad weather is all part of New York because that's what filters people who aren't serious about the city out.
Wow.
If it was 75 degrees and sunny here every day, this place would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
It would be
You're
all
right.
retire. It would be a retirement community tourist attraction. It'd be more of a theme park than it already is.
It is an island after all.
Yeah.
It's the only island in the world with no aquatic energy whatsoever.
Look at that.
You wear a flip flop here, you'll get bit by a rat.
If you wear one flip flop, especially.
Oof.
It's the only city in the world where you could just sit down and someone starts jerking off next to you and you just say, Not my business.
You just say, Dad.
Not my- And on that note, we have to thank Tom for coming by. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for your knowledge.
Thank you. It
Right,
was fun.
Tom,
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. So
Where
much
can people
fun.
check you out?
I guess, I don't know, my YouTube channel is Tom DNYC, and I run a weekly show at Lucky Jack's every Tuesday, super fun, at 7:30, and then a monthly show about New York, actually, the first Saturday of every month. The next one's August 5th. But you can check that all out I put it up on my Instagram at Tom DNYC.
Great.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Oh, no, that's how Sweetheart Gang roll.